welcome to another Minisode of the Solidarity Sister podcast with your host, Kristen Wilson. This week, I have been pondering over one of those mom sayings that I share with my kids kind of often, which is this: the way others treat you is a reflection of them, of their character and of their experiences. The way that you treat others is a reflection of you and your character and your experiences. And the reason why I think this is such valuable advice, this is good mom advice, I think it's good human advice, is because it really puts the power on us to decide how we're going to show up in a given situation. And it also allows us, I don't know if you've read the book, The 4 Agreements, but one of those has to do with not taking what others do personally. So let me tell you what this can play out to look like in everyday life. This means that when my child is out of control, I get to choose how to respond to that. Another little saying I like to keep in there is don't overreact to their overreactions. And that's something that someone shared with me when I started the teenage years. But it means that I am taking a step back between that stimulus and response. That's something that Viktor Frankl taught, and then Stephen Covey used that in his teachings. But being able to come at communicating with other people from a place where we are able to be grounded first. I'll find that for myself, if I am really angry and upset about a situation, I like to have some time to calm down before I communicate with whoever was involved. I want to be able to get my logical brain back online and be able to come at it with compassion. It means that if someone is hurtful to me, I get to choose how to respond. And I can say that them hurting me and the actions that they've shared with me, I did not deserve that. But it's not about me, it's about them, their behaviors, their thoughts, their thing. That's about them. And I get to show up the way that I want to show up. I like to also tell my kids that, if they're arguing or fighting, children do this, and especially amongst my kids as they've been younger, sometimes they hit each other. I don't personally spank or hit or use consequences like that in my parenting, but children, when they're frustrated and their words aren't doing it for them, sometimes they do turn physical as little kids. And if one of them does something to the other one, and then the other one says, well, she did this, I like to point it out as, so now we have 2 wrongs. There isn't like a justification for this. So if she hit you and you hit her back, now we have 2 wrongs. If she hits you and you walk away, then we just have the 1 wrong, because we get to choose how we show up. And how we show up is a reflection of us. This week I had the opportunity to practice that for myself in the most irritating way. I was at Walmart, and if you know me, you know that I actually hate going to Walmart. But we don't have anything else like that that's close to my home. I have to drive 25 to 30 minutes to get to a Target. As much as I don't love the experience of being at Walmart, inflation has hit everyone, and we have a lot of kids to feed. And so I went to Walmart and I took Rose, my 5-year-old, with me. I didn't really want to be in Walmart with Rose because sometimes she is a tough companion to have. The Walmart shopping experience for me most of the time is actually very overwhelming from a sensory aspect. There's too many people, there's too many things, the lights are bright. So I'm trying to remember the things, and then, I have people from home texting me things that I got the text after I'd already been in that section, things they needed. So it was really kind of a hassle, and I had not practiced the best self-care that day, and it had been many hours since I had eaten. So I was just I was spent between all of the sensory experience of Walmart, Rose talking at me, trying to get all the things for all the people, and trying to do it pretty quickly. We had to make a bathroom stop, which I'm always like, really, we weren't even gone from the house that long. But okay, here we go. We're doing all the things. We finally got to the car, and I was loading the groceries in. I had done self-checkout, and I discovered an item that I hadn't paid for. Oh, so annoying. And for the first time, this isn't the first time this has happened to me. It's not that it happens a ton, but occasionally this has happened to me. For the first time, I second guessed whether I really wanted to go back in that store. In the past, I have always been the person who goes back and says, I'm sorry, I accidentally took this item without paying for it, and I've always paid for it. Or sometimes I haven't talked to anyone at all. I've just gone to self-check and paid for the item. But I was just so overwhelmed, and the thought of going back into that store actually made me want to cry. Is this first world problems? Maybe so, but I really was overwhelmed. And I thought, do I really have to do this? And I also thought how earlier in the week I had purchased a birthday gift for one of my kids, and it rang up wrong, and I didn't notice till afterwards. And they charged me a couple of dollars more than I should have been charged. And how this item was only like a $4 item, a little more than $4. So, hey, they're this big corporation, and are they really going to miss? They already took $2 from me that I shouldn't have been charged for. Are they really going to miss this other $2? And then I stopped and I took a breath. And it's not about them. It's not about if anyone else knew. And I didn't think, I'm going to share this on my podcast. I really thought it was just going to be my own private experience. But it was a moment to give me an integrity check about how do I want to show up in the world? What kind of energy do I want to show up with in the world? Because how I treat others, how I show up in the world, that is a reflection of me. And who do I want to be? And if you wouldn't have gone back in the store and you would have just kept the item, I'm not judging you. I have no idea what your life experiences are. This isn't a comparison game. But for me and for my heart, I knew that I would not feel good about just driving away. As tempting as it was, as much as I wanted to, it wouldn't have been a reflection for the way that I want to show up in the world. And so my challenge to you this week is when other people come to you or life circumstances come at you that are things that you would not have chosen, that you didn't appreciate, that you likely did not deserve. In the case of someone, coming at you in an attacking way, whether it's a family member or a friend or a neighbor or a coworker, take a moment, take a breath, let the actions of others be about them, and let the way that you show up be about you. Sometimes people hurt us intentionally. Other times people hurt us unintentionally. Let me give you an example. There have been times where I have had a friend or someone that I didn't respond to in an email or a text or return of a phone call. And it may have hurt their feelings. Most cases, probably all cases, it's because I have an ADHD brain that struggles with executive function and 8 children. Sometimes I respond to people in my head. Sometimes I type the message and then I get distracted because a kid comes in and asks for something and I don't push send. So maybe that person who didn't respond to you, it's not a reflection in that case of their character. It's a reflection of their experiences. It's of where they're coming right then. Where they are in their life and what's going on for them. I had an experience to talk with one of my daughters this week who's had a child at school that's been pretty mean to her, but is mean to most of the kids. And we talked about how most often when a child is being mean to everyone, it's because there's either some kind of imbalance in their body. There's all kinds of things that can cause that. Inflammation in the brain, different diagnoses that you could have, or illnesses can cause that, deficiencies of certain minerals or vitamins, or it could be because that child is experiencing abuse or neglect in the home. And we don't know what it is, but we don't have to take that personally. And in this case, it was easier for her not to take it personally because this child is unkind to lots and lots of children. And instead, we talked about strategies for how she could show up and feel good about it. I actually introduced her to the gray rock strategy. Yes, that's something that was developed more to work with narcissists. I think it's also effective for kids who are going around and being mean to lots of children. If you are a gray rock response, then they are going to find somewhere else to go. Because I want her to be able to show up in a way that isn't unkind, but that still stands up for herself. And so we talked about what phrases she could use. And if you're not familiar with gray rock, you can Google it. It's a pretty easy tactic to use. And sometimes it's the best way to respond to someone. It allows us to still stay in a place where we feel good about how we're showing up, but we're also exhibiting healthy boundaries for ourselves. So I hope that some of that was helpful for you. I hope that it is helpful to be able to take a step back and realize if you are one of the people that I did not respond to, it's not you, it's me. Please don't take it personally, but feel free to reach out to me again because it means I just missed it and I need a reminder. And then we can reconnect again. But just know that you have more power in your life than you might realize. Sometimes we give our power away to others unnecessarily, but we don't have to. We can choose how we're going to show up and how we're going to respond. And if we're feeling out of control, we can take the time we need to give ourselves the self-love and the self-care we can until our nervous system calms down. We can learn whatever the coping strategies we need, somatic exercises, or talk therapy, or whatever the things are, getting some exercise and natural endorphins. If we're feeling like we actually want to show up in a different space, but we don't feel physically able to do that or mentally able to do that, then day by day we can look for those small ways that we can care for and love ourselves so that we can become grounded enough to get into that place that we want to be in. And sometimes that starts with seeking safety. If you are in a home situation that is unsafe, finding that safety is going to be step one towards healing. And it might take a process to get there. And then we can come back into be a place. And I hope that the people around you are able to give you grace for the space you're in until you're able to respond and come at it differently. Because that's part of what being in a community is, as being able to hold space for each other as we are and hold space for ourselves. And usually if we're not holding space for ourselves, we're not going to be very good at holding space for other people either. Have a great weekend, and thank you for being part of the Solidarity Sister community. We needed you. Solidarity Sister.